Hello, and welcome to the Parkinson's Foundation Cognition Talk series. Today's presentation is Thinking Changes in Parkinson's, Engaging Physical Therapy. I'm Kim Nitz, a program manager for the Heartland chapter of the Parkinson's Foundation. Some people with Parkinson's disease will experience cognitive challenges, and the Parkinson's Foundation Cognition Talk series focuses on these cognition concerns. Parkinson's disease is complex and can take multiple professionals to work collaboratively to deliver your optimal care plan. All of our pre-recorded talks in this series are presented by one of our care team professionals who will help you to become more familiar with how each can add their perspective and recommendation for optimal living with Parkinson's. Today's focus is to share the role the physical therapist plays in the Parkinson's care team. In addition to the Cognition Talk series, we're hosting virtual events every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of the week. To learn more and to register, please visit parkinson.org/pdhealth. The Parkinson's Foundation provides families with free resources, including our website, parkinson.org, educational book series, webinars, podcasts, a hospital safety kit called the Aware and Care Kit, and our toll-free helpline, which is staffed by Parkinson's specialists. To learn more about our resources and our upcoming virtual events, remember to visit our website or call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO. PD Health at Home is presented by the Light of Day Foundation, whose generosity has made this programming possible. We thank the Light of Day Foundation for your support. I am now pleased to introduce our speaker, Heather Cianci. Heather is the outpatient neurological team leader and founding therapist of the Dan Aaron Parkinson's Rehabilitation Center, Penn Therapy and Fitness at Pennsylvania Hospital in Philadelphia, part of the University of Pennsylvania and a Parkinson's Foundation Center of Excellence. Heather received her bachelor's in physical therapy from the University of Scranton in Scranton, PA, and her master's in gerontology from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. She has been a physical therapist since 1994 and received her board certification in geriatrics in 1999 from the American Board of Physical Therapy Specialties. Heather is an LSVT BIG certified clinician, a Parkinson's Wellness Recovery certified clinician, a graduate of the Rocksteady Boxing program, and is certified in music and memory. She serves as an LSVT BIG faculty instructor for LSVT Global and coordinator and PT faculty for the Parkinson's Foundation Team Training Program. Heather has authored book chapters on rehabilitative strategies for Parkinson's, and she also is author of the PD educational book, Fitness Counts. If you're not familiar with this, that is also able to be ordered from our helpline or downloaded via our website. So settle in now as we watch Heather's presentation, and she'll be joining us live for Q&A afterwards.
To talk to you about what physical therapy can do to help individuals with Parkinson's disease who may be having cognitive changes. And I know that talking about cognitive changes can be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. It can bring about anxiety. It can bring about a lot of fear. And I believe that it is something important, though, that we talk about, because it is something that comes with the advancement of Parkinson's disease. And only by sharing that information can we really help people who are living with Parkinson's disease, and to help you as part of the care team to really impact the life of that person living with Parkinson's. So cognitive problems can take on many different levels and flavors. There is something known as MCI, which is mild cognitive impairment, and that's often seen in people in the early stages with problems with staying organized, or simple forgetful things, not being able to multitask or do as many things as they once did when they used to be able to kind of juggle 3 things at once. And you may be noticing that within yourself. And that's nothing to be embarrassed about. That's something that you want to let your care team know about so that we can help you. And you may not think that a physical therapist like myself could be helpful in that respect. You may think, oh, physical therapists, they're the ones that are going to help me to walk better. They're the ones that are going to teach me how to do an exercise program. How are they going to help me with cognitive changes? And the answer is we've got a lot of tools in our toolbox that we want to share with you and that we can really help to guide you to have a better understanding of how to organize your schedule, of how to prepare for your day, on how to keep active with your home exercise program and to keep you moving. Now, are we the be-all and the end-all when it comes to cognition? Absolutely not. We have many members of the care team who are going to help you with that. But I want you to know that if you're living with cognitive changes, whether it's in newly diagnosed Parkinson's disease or you're having some real memory problems, perhaps in the later stages of Parkinson's disease, that's okay. We need to talk about it. We need to be upfront and honest about it. And then that way, myself as a physical therapist or other physical therapists who are out there can really then help to shape our program to help you to be able to function better. So there's many different things that we can do. There's a lot of great technology that's out there now. Some people really do better when they actually have a video of someone showing them how to do the particular exercises. Some people do better when they see a group of people doing the exercises on the video. Some people like to be part of a class and have others around them, and that motivation helps them. And being able to see other people move helps to kind of guide their movements. There's also people who do better if they just hear it. So maybe a recording, audio recording of hearing what to do. And other people might do better with just having pictures. Some people are going to need help from a care partner or family, friend, or home health aide, and that's okay. We want people living with Parkinson's disease to stay as active and as engaged socially and physically in the community as possible. So please remember that physical therapy can play a role in this. We can help you to find ways of staying focused, to help you to find ways of staying organized, especially with finding ways to stay motivated. Motivation can be something that suffers in Parkinson's disease. Sometimes people can feel kind of, apathetic or not interested in doing anything anymore. Sometimes people can feel anxious and depressed about that. And that's things that we need to know so that we can talk to your physician, we can talk to your care team about that. Because our true nature as a physical therapist is to help you to live life to the fullest, right? To be able to function, to be able to do the things that you enjoy in your life, whether that is riding a horse, whether that's mowing your lawn, whether that's staying active in your book club, whatever kind of activity that you have out there, we really want to help to motivate you to do that. We also help to do that by making sure that you're getting enough physical activity, that you're doing the right kind of exercises. And again, if there are cognitive issues with processing, with staying focused, with understanding what's actually going on, we can truly help to guide you through those processes. So please know, we are here to help you. We are not here to be judgmental. And there's nothing wrong with opening up to your physical therapist about any of the kind of challenges that you're having with being able to understand or remember or take part in any of the activities that you normally do throughout your day. What are some of the issues with cognition that can really impact functional mobility? You think to yourself, I get up from the chair, I take a walk, I open the door, I put my coat on. These are all normal movements that I do, and I never used to have to think about them at all. Well, with Parkinson's disease, we know that individuals need to actually think more about what they're doing. They have to kind of use cues in their brain to kind of say, okay, this is how I have to move my hand. I need to make this movement have much more power. I need to make this movement be bigger. And different ways of kind of helping to push that movement forward. And that's a new way of thinking. And that's something that a lot of people are not aware of in the beginning about how they actually have to think about what they're doing. And that's where we as physical therapists can come in and help to teach you about this is the amount of effort that you need, and this is how hard I need you to work, and this is when I need you to do this. Here are some new ways of doing old things that you used to do. And when there are cognitive challenges on top of that, people can think, you know what, this just isn't possible for me anymore. And I want you to know that while those challenges may make function a little bit more difficult, we can find ways around them. We can adapt the environment, meaning that maybe we get a different chair for you to sit on. Maybe you're using the wrong kind of ambulation device. So maybe instead of a walker that just has straight wheels, maybe you need a walker that has swivel wheels, or a walker that has a seat that you can sit on. Maybe if you're out in the community, maybe a really nice souped up scooter might be the way to go. If you're having so many episodes of freezing and so many falls that it's keeping you from being able to go outside, and you're not able to kind of use those cues to help yourself walk better, there's nothing wrong with using a device to kind of help out in that situation. So there are different ways that we can help at different times of the day, for what you're doing in the morning, or what you're doing in the afternoon, at night, getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. There are different things that we can do to train you to help yourself. There's different things that we can do to train the people living with you and helping you to help you better. And there's different things that we can do environmentally to move things around in the house and to change sort of the layout of things, or change the type of equipment that we're using. You would be surprised how helpful it is to have an extra hand bar in a bathroom or in a kitchen. A lot of people never think about having a bar in the kitchen to hold on to. There are different things that we as physical therapists can kind of look at through different lenses that you may not think about. So while having memory problems or attention problems or the ability to kind of recall what you're supposed to do very quickly can certainly be a challenge when it comes to staying active and staying mobile, please know that working with a physical therapist can help you to find, like I always like to say, new ways of doing old things. So again, please be honest with your therapist, be honest with your care team. We're here to help you, and we want to devise these ways. We really enjoy kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of what's kind of keeping you from being your best, and how we can then kind of be that detective who solves that mystery and really helps to better train you, train the people who are helping you, or even change the environment that's around you. So I always like to say, you know, the harder the challenge, the more I like it, because it really makes me put on my thinking cap. It helps me then to work with the other members of the team, the occupational therapist, the speech language pathologist, all the people around me, so that we can really help you to really live that life to the best of your ability, because we want to be able to have you get out there and do the things that you want to do. So again, share your story with us and help us to help you. With the advancing of Parkinson's disease throughout the years that someone has it, hallucinations can become part of the challenges of cognition. And hallucinations are nothing to be embarrassed by. This is something that can be part and parcel of the disease process. And it is something that I talk to my patients about and I ask them about, because I don't want them to feel frightened by them. I don't want them to be embarrassed by them. And I don't want them to try to hide them from me, because there are ways that we can deal with that. Oftentimes, early on, when people are first experiencing hallucinations, if you go to touch the hallucination and move it out of the way, acknowledge that it's there, oftentimes it will leave. Now, as the disease progresses, sometimes we're not able to figure out kind of what's a hallucination and what's actually going on. And what we need to realize is that, again, it's part of the disease process. So again, nothing to be embarrassed by and something we need to talk about. And that goes for the care partners that are out there too. What I would really like to impart to you, if the person that you are working with or your loved one is having problems with hallucinations, is that you acknowledge the hallucination. We want to essentially join people in their world, really step into their world at that time. If someone is having a hallucination and we say to them, no, that's not right, there's not a cat over there, I don't know why you're saying that. We've essentially said to that person, I don't believe you. I think you're lying. That's not going on. And that can make the person with Parkinson's feel worse about themselves. That can make them feel anxious. It can even lead to people feeling very angry. And I like to tell the story of the man who had bees in his pants. And I had a patient, and his wife was very aware of the hallucinations. And she would prep me by letting me know. We'd talk about, what were the hallucinations that were going on? What are the things that we're seeing? He was commonly reporting that he was seeing small animals and insects and bugs and things. And they usually weren't bothersome to him. They were just sort of there. She would say, the bugs are there. It's okay. Don't just don't even acknowledge them, leave them alone. It's fine. I see them. I'll take care of them. And, she let him know, like, okay, yeah, the bugs are there, but it's nothing that should concern you. Until we had a day where he came into therapy and his walking was much different than it normally was. And his attitude just seemed very off. And when I asked him what was going on, he confided in me that there were bees in his pants. Now, I didn't say to him, "Are you crazy? There's no bees in your pants." What I said to him was something to the effect like, "Oh my gosh, that must be scary and probably a little uncomfortable. And now I understand why you're having a little difficulty with your walking. Would you like me to take care of those bees for you?" And he said, yes. So we walked outside and I very gently put my hand up the bottom of the pant leg. I took the bees and I got rid of them. Did it on the other side and we were good to go. We moved on. We didn't need to talk about it. There was nothing embarrassing. There was nothing frightening about it. But we have to use a technique that is known as yes and. And that's a technique where if someone is having a hallucination, where we say to them, yes, meaning I acknowledge that, and this is what we're going to do about it, right? Or if someone says, I used to jump up and down on that tree across the yard when I was little, and I climbed that tree like crazy and came back down that tree. And it may not be the house that person grew up in. We don't want to say, no, this isn't even the house that you lived in. You might say something like, yes, and I bet that was a lot of fun. And then move on to the next subject. So again, validating people, joining people in their world in that moment and helping them to feel really comfortable in what's going on. It's perfectly okay. Again, hallucinations are nothing to be embarrassed by. Problems with memory, problems with staying focused, again, nothing to be embarrassed by, something that we need to bring up to all members of the care team so that we can help come up with creative ways to support you and work around those situations. One of the things that I hear time and time again from care partners and other members of care teams, home health aides, people like that, is that they get very frustrated because they oftentimes feel like, now I told that person not to get out of that chair. I told them 10 times, don't get out of the chair while I'm in the kitchen. I'll come for you. Or if you need me, I want you to call me. But yet he keeps coming and getting out of that chair. And then he had a fall twice because of this. Well, what we need to do is kind of take a step back and think about what are we dealing with? What are we managing here? If that loved one or that person with Parkinson's disease has memory issues, or they have issues with anxiety, depression, if they have trouble staying focused, if they're having hallucinations, there's all sorts of reasons why they might want to get up from that chair. And they may not remember that it's not safe to get up from that chair. That person is not doing it to spite. They're not doing it because they want to make you say it 800 times. It's just an inability for them to keep that focus, to keep that memory, and to know clearly what to do. So while physical therapy may not be able to help that patient to now 100% of the time remember the safe way to do something, we can certainly work with that individual to teach them how to do it properly over and over again, helping that patient to hopefully maybe encode some of that new way of moving in their mind. And it may come to them that they feel this is the natural way to do it, but they're probably going to need some help from you. It may be that we need to have a different kind of chair. It may be that we need to make sure someone has already used the restroom, that someone has all of the things that they need when they're sitting there to sit there calmly and relax. They have a drink there, they have the remote, they have their book, maybe even perhaps a bell for someone who's having any kind of voice problems if they're not able to make their voice loud enough to ask for help. Sometimes I've had my patients say, well, I was calling and she didn't hear me, so I just got up on my own. So that means that we need to maybe encourage that person to work with a speech language pathologist to see if we can work on getting that voice to a louder level so that they can be heard. And if that's not a possibility, then what could we use in the environment to help with that? Could we use some sort of a monitor, or could we use some sort of a chair alarm that if that person gets up, the alarm beeps, the person hears it in the other room and they come and help. So we need sometimes to think out of the box. And we need to be okay, again, with asking for help and for saying, I'm frustrated with this, or I don't know how to help this person. I'm not sure what to do anymore. What are the techniques that I can use to do this? And those things can change. It's an ongoing process with the progression of the disease. So it's really important that you have that therapy team, your doctor, your nurse, your social worker, all of those people together. We talk about it as sort of being a chapter in your book on life with Parkinson's disease. You're going to need us at different times. You're going to need us more in some chapters, less in some other chapters. And we're there to kind of help you through that, because as things change, we want to prepare you for those changes, but we also want to make sure that you're able to handle those changes so that we can actually attack them kind of at the base as they go up. So know that while we can't reverse the effects of those cognitive changes, we can work to manage them, and we can work together to really help people to do what they need to do. One of the things that I like to encourage in all of my people living with Parkinson's disease is using music. And I always say, never underestimate the power of music. You can think about, what was your wedding song? What was the first concert you went to? What was the last concert you went to? If I said to you today, I'm going to pay for you for a round trip flight to go anywhere in the world and to see anyone you want to see in concert, who would that be? So different ways of thinking about what's the music that's the most important to you, what music touches your soul, touches your heart. You can use music to help calm someone who's feeling anxious. You can help to motivate someone who's not feeling particularly like they want to do their exercises today, or they're not quite ready to get out of bed. You can help with soothing music to help with falling asleep. You can use different music when helping to prep a meal. You could dance together. You don't have to be someone who's still able to walk and have great balance to dance. You can dance in a chair in a beautiful way. There are many different things that you can do using music. So if you're interested in learning about using music, talk to your therapy team, talk to your care team, and let us know so that we can help you to find ways to stay motivated and to stay active and functional. As a physical therapist, I am not alone in the ability to help people. I have a whole care team of professionals who I work with, and I'm very fortunate to be able to lean on those people. And I hope that you will look to further your care team and see if you can get a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech language pathologist. Most people have that neurologist and that physician they're working with, but maybe there's a nurse specialist you can work with, as well as a social worker. Social workers are wonderful for finding any kind of equipment and organizations and things that are available to you outside of your home, and help that we can get into the home. And really, we work best when we work as a team, when you're able to tell us what your needs are, what your loved ones' needs are, and let us work to kind of find those things for you. You know, occupational therapists will work with you to help organize your day, to help with making things easier, anything from getting dressed to being able to read your book or listening to a book on tape. Our speech language pathologists, you know, they work with us in physical therapy on, you know, can you help that patient to sit up taller? Can they open that mouth up in a bigger way and have more expression when they're talking? And we hear from those speech pathologists about, you know, make sure that if you don't hear what that person is saying, you ask them to speak up. They're going to need those reminders. So we work together as a team. So know that there are different people out there who can help with different aspects of what is going on. And if you're in need of help, find out who's available in your area. Where you go for treatment, there may not be everything available, but there might be someone who can find someone else within that close geographical area to where you live to find that. Sometimes services are even available online, so that's an option to look for too. There are many different ways of staying active and mobile and feeling good about yourself, even when those cognitive issues can be a challenge. We can look to, again, using any kind of online classes, meeting with groups of people for support groups, for having choral groups online. And again, I really enjoy as a physical therapist thinking out of the box to help you to really create that active lifestyle and to really work around those challenges that you're having. Maybe we're having problems with memory. Maybe we need someone to remind us. Maybe we need a note to help remind us of those things. That's okay. We want you to share that information with us again and let us help to build that quality team for you. Have you ever heard the phrase, everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten? Well, I want you to think about that. I think as we age, we forget about the joy of childhood, about what we did to stay active in childhood and who we were as a child. And I think it's really important to take a step back and think about those things that we learned, all right? If I'm an adult today and I want to exercise or I'm going to the gym, I often think about it as a workout. I'm going to work out. And it just sounds so grave and not like a lot of fun. But if I'm a child and I want to stay active and healthy, and I have 2 boys, I don't actually make them work out. They play. They jump and they sing and they laugh and they dance and they have fun together and they're creative and they think out of the box and they use their imagination. And that's all stuff that we learned when we were in kindergarten, right? To be kind, to be gentle to one another, to have fun, to not take ourselves so seriously, right? So I want you to think about some of the things that you can do to actually stay active, to stay happy, to stay healthy, and maybe work around some of those cognitive challenges that you're having. One of the things that we use a lot within our clinic, and I know some people are thinking, well, aren't you talking down to people and aren't you kind of bringing things down? And I have to say, no, I've never had anyone say to me, you're treating me like a child, Heather. I have them say to me, you know what, that was a lot of fun and I never thought about doing that at home. Going outside and blowing bubbles, bouncing a big ball, turning on music really loud and trying to come up with the silliest dance possible, or trying to do an old dance move that you haven't done in forever. Trying to drum on a tabletop, right? Using hand cream, a nice scented hand cream to kind of give yourself a hand massage, or to massage the arms of that person with Parkinson's disease. You can get really creative and have a lot of fun in what you're doing. So please don't look at how you have to work out. I want you to think about more about play, about having fun, about thinking out of the box. And if this is something that you're really challenged with, don't worry about it. That's why you have therapists who are out there who can really kind of help you to initiate play, to help you, again, think about things maybe you haven't done in years and years. One of the things that we have instituted in our clinic are hula hoops. And everybody laughs when they see the hula hoops. And everyone has a story about doing hula hoop, or my sister used to do the hula hoop, or my kids used to do the hula hoop. And I'll tell you that whether you succeed in doing the hula hoop or not, just trying is a great exercise, and it will absolutely lead to laughter and it will lead to joy. And that's really what we're trying to instill into the lives of everyone living with Parkinson's disease, is still that chance to feel like the person they once were, to have that joy and to have that laughter back into their lives. So again, let's try to think out of the box, think about what you learned in kindergarten, and let's see if we can make living with Parkinson's disease much easier to do. Here are the topics that we discussed today. We talked about what physical therapists can offer to someone who has cognitive deficits living with Parkinson's disease. We talked about how cognitive challenges can impact someone's mobility and how they're able to move around in their environment. We talk about how to handle hallucinations and how even during times of a hallucination, we can help someone to still stay safe and feel good about themselves. We talked about how do we help someone who is having problems with remembering what the therapist taught them. And lastly, we talked about other members of the care team and how finding and putting together a care team is the best thing to help someone living with Parkinson's disease.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather, for all that very encouraging information. And we're happy right now to be able to take question and answer from our audience with us today. Just a reminder, you can enter those questions related to the topic of cognition in that black banner along the bottom of your screen. You'll see a Q&A button. So feel free to go in and share your question. So we'll get started. First question we have, how can I talk to my family, including my kids, my grandkids, about my cognitive decline and really help them understand how to support me?
Oh, that's a great question, Kim. And it's something that many, many people ask us. And I would like to refer you, much as Kim was talking about the Fitness Counts books, the Parkinson Foundation does have something called Caring and Coping. And we have another publication which talks about some of the cognitive issues that go on with Parkinson's disease. And she's got that there. And it gives you a lot of practical information. I think what is most important is just sheer honesty and making sure that you're saying, this is about me. This is about how I feel. These are the difficulties that I'm having. I believe they're part of the Parkinson's, and I need help. And we really do find that when people ask for help, family members want to rally to do something because oftentimes they're not sure what to do and they don't want to overstep their boundaries. So being that honest with your family and saying, this is what's going on. This is what I need. Now, it may be the case that your loved ones may say, well, we don't see that, or we're not able to provide you that help. We aren't comfortable with doing that. And that's where you need to talk to the members of your care team, where we really do need to get social work more involved to see what we can do to help with other services that are available out there. And I think people need to realize that much like tremor, much like, bradykinesia and hypokinesia, cognitive changes are a symptom of Parkinson's disease, and it's just part of the whole disease process. Nothing to be, again, embarrassed about.
On that topic, how do I know when it's time to share with my neurologist either, cognitive challenges I'm having or hallucinations?
The time is always right to share that information. Don't be afraid to share that. The only thing that is going to come out of sharing it with your neurologist or your care team is that they're going to be better prepared to help you. So I always tell people, even in the very early stages, if you're only having difficulty with staying organized or multitasking, it's still something important to talk to the neurologist about because then they can make that referral to the therapy team and kind of nip it in the bud.
Great.
Yeah.
This is a question asking how to cope with slow thinking and response time when in a group setting or group discussion.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, such a good question.
Yeah, and again, this is happening more because all of us are doing these Zoom meetings, and everything has been changed to this virtual land. I think one of the things that I really try to instill within my patients is having the ability to first say to the people you're with, I need to let you know that I have a condition, whether you want to disclose that it's Parkinson's or just say I have a condition where it takes me a little longer to kind of get my thoughts out, to get the right words out, those kinds of things. If you are in a book club or you're in something that's, a more structured environment, you can always ask for questions ahead of time. So being prepared for what is there. You want to make sure when you go into these social situations that you're well rested, you're hydrated, your medication is working at its best, doing everything that you can be, as positive as you can, and saying to people, "Ugh, I'm not sure about that answer right now. Can you come back to me?" And that's perfectly acceptable.
Thank you. Can you discuss the correlation between, pardon me, Parkinson's and motivation and follow through? I've tried leaving myself written reminders, but I still find I am not motivated to do certain things.
Motivation. Yes, we talk about motivation every single day in our clinic. Yeah, as things have changed with the world of COVID, it can be much more challenging to actually be motivated because maybe you were working out or exercising at a gym, you were with friends, you were going places, and now everything's changed. So what I always like to tell people is have a goal in mind. Have you said something that you're looking forward to being able to do, saying, if I complete this task, then I'm going to be able to have that bowl of ice cream. I'm going to be able to buy that extra something that I wanted to get on Amazon. And also realizing, what is it physically and cognitively within you that you want to improve? So, feeling frustrated about certain things, maybe the difficulty with going from sitting to standing, you have to say to yourself, you know what? I didn't learn how to ride a bike the first time. I didn't learn how to drive my car the first time. I didn't learn how to, print my name in cursive. I have to put some practice into it. So acknowledge to yourself, yes, it is going to be a challenge, but that you can absolutely do it. We really prescribe to people scheduling things. A whole day can go by and you will forget to do your exercises. You will find excuses not to do your exercises. But I guarantee you, folks with Parkinson's disease know exactly when it's time to take their medication. And they know when they have not taken their medication because of how they feel. And we really want people to think about the cognitive exercises and physical and social things that you do to be on the schedule. This is the time that I call my granddaughter. This is the time that I go and I do some yoga. This is the time that I join my book club. So it's actually scheduled as part of your day. And I really do find that that helps people to actually be much more motivated.
Great advice. And even for those not living with Parkinson's,
Absolutely.
excellent. So how much, this must be from a family member, how much insight do people with Parkinson's tend to have about their own cognitive difficulties?
Mhm. I would say in the early stages, people are aware of many of them. I think sometimes it is embarrassment or shame or fear that keeps people from saying, you know, I'm having a little trouble with that, and I didn't remember to do that, and I'm sort of forgetting some things, or you know what, juggling many things it is harder for me. I would say though, unfortunately, as the disease does progress into the later stages, where some people will develop a form of dementia with the Parkinson's disease, the insight into the difficulties they're having really are not great. So it's actually going to depend on what stage of the disease process they're in.
Related to that, we have a question. You described how the person with Parkinson's should be honest with their partner, but what about communication the other direction? Should we partners be honest about changes we notice in our loved one?
Yes. And I know that you fear that this may be met with hostility or denial or sadness or embarrassment. But again, I really do prescribe to open communication. If it's something that you don't feel comfortable with sharing one on one with your loved one, then I always say maybe we need to reach out to the social worker and you meet together with the social worker. We, as PTs and OTs, I can tell you that since about a year ago when COVID first started, we have been putting on our psychiatrist hat and our psychologist hat and our social worker hat. Everyone is suffering, right? Everyone has changed. The world has changed and people are going through a lot. So it's really, it's your safe space within therapy and within the other members of your care team to bring those things up. And sometimes it does take education where perhaps the occupational therapist has done some sort of a cognitive assessment and they do that with the person who has Parkinson's. And then they share that information together and saying, the things that your spouse were saying is actually correct. You are having some problem with short-term memory. You are having some difficulty with being able to switch from one thought to another. So again, you're not alone. Bring in the care team. I think that's probably my best advice for that.
Okay, another good transition to a question. How does one go about forming a Parkinson's care team? Is the team covered by Medicare?
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you find a team? So most people will have a neurologist. That's usually the starting point there, or primary care. And if you're lucky enough to live in an area where you have a big medical center, those are the places that really do have a lot of that, centers of excellence that the Parkinson's Foundation has. Some places you're not going to find that. You may just have your neurologist. And the beauty today, if there's anything good that came out of COVID, it is the advent of allowing therapists and people out there to provide care versus using telehealth. So you can get more access to people now who you may not have been able to in a rural area. So I always say, start with your neurologist, see who your neurologist knows within their care network. You can also go to the Parkinson Foundation's helpline. They can help you to locate that. You can go through the American Physical Therapy Association. You could contact the most geographically close center of excellence and say, who do you know in the community? And that happens with us a lot here because we are in Center City, Philadelphia, and we get people who come from all over the tri-state area. A lot of people from, Southern Delaware who may not be able to see us as frequently, but we then have contacts within the community to help them find that. But yes, all of the therapy services are covered by Medicare, and the tele-rehab is also covered by Medicare.
Such an important reminder about access to telehealth now. Switching gears to hallucinations. This person asked, do hallucinations last briefly or for a long period of time? How frequently do they typically occur? And if you are alone and have a hallucination, are you in danger because you potentially could take action based on
Mhm.
this non real impression?
Yeah, yeah. Hallucinations are very scary for a lot of people. So in the first answer to those first sort of questions are they can be very quick or they can be a little bit longer. Again, there's no set amount of time for hallucinations. It can also be based on kind of when the medication cycle is on. We also have people who um, do something that's called sundowning. So when kind of the sun goes down, that's when they get a little bit more distracted and a little less focused on things and become a little bit more confused with hallucinations. So yes, it varies is really the answer. And depending on where that person is in the progression of the disease process will depend on how well they're able to handle hallucination alone. In the beginning, some people have insight into that and can tell themselves, you're safe, you're okay. Some people in the later stages will not be able to do that. So yes, there is a risk of harm. I do love to tell one story that ended up very positive, but a patient I had who he was having a hallucination while his wife was not home, and she went shopping, and when she came home there was a pizza delivery van there, but there were also 3 police cars. And what had happened was he had hallucinated that there were people at his home. And he said, when you've got friends over, you order pizza. So he ordered, way too many pizzas and sodas. And then when the delivery man arrived, he had no idea what was going on, and was very angry. I didn't order these pizzas. I don't know what's going on. So the pizza delivery man called the police, and it all ended up well. But you can see how things like that can happen when people are in the moment. It's a very deep held belief of what is going on. It's very real to that person at the time. So in those kinds of situations, if we know that those hallucinations are happening and that they're that strong, then we probably need to make sure there are better efforts at someone always having someone with them to be safest.
Great. On the topic of once experiencing cognitive decline, how to maneuver safely using a walker or other piece of medical equipment, especially if somebody's not quite as confident in what they're doing.
Yeah. So the number one piece of advice is don't try it on yourself, get to therapy. Let the therapist be the educator for you on that. Unfortunately, a lot of times people buy the wrong device or find a device that was lent to them by somebody's grandmother who passed away or a neighbor who had a knee replacement. So the physical therapist really is the best person to help you find what is the best device for you and train you how to use it correctly. The real answer to that is repetition, repetition, repetition. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes people with Parkinson's disease much longer to learn something new and to sort of imprint that. Now, there are going to be cases where people are just not able to remember to do this on their own. And in that case, what we do is we train the care partner, the home health aide, whoever is with them. And unfortunately, they're going to need somebody there with them at all times to coach them through it. People with Parkinson's disease are what we call stimulable, meaning they can do something when you cue them to do it or you help them to do it along. So again, go to your physical therapist, let them be the ones to help you. There's always some sort of trick of the trade that we can help to impart to you.
Great. A question about why is it easier that I remember things I see versus things I hear?
Mhm. Yeah, that's going into a lot of brain physiology and anatomy, different parts of the brain. Some people are stimulated more by things that they see. Maybe their focus is a little bit better. Honestly, what's really interesting is that research does show that one of the most the senses that kind of bring around memories really quickly is the sense of scent. If I smell a certain perfume, it's actually Shalimar. If I smell anyone wearing Shalimar, I am transported back to ninth grade homeroom because that's what I wore there. So unfortunately, people with Parkinson's disease do tend to lose that sense of smell. So if this patient is more visually stimulated, that's perfectly fine. And that's important. We ask that on our intake forms is how do you learn best? Are you a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? Are you somebody who really needs to have things written down? Are you somebody who likes to do it over and over again? So people learn in different ways, and it's important, that's a great piece of advice that you can give to your care team and saying, I need to see how it's done. So for me to learn how to walk, I need to watch Heather do it multiple times.
A moment ago, you talked about cueing. We have a question. Is there any way for me as a caregiver to help my loved one to remember what they were going to say or ask?
Mhm. I'm going to actually leave that to the speech language pathologist. You might want to hold on to that question until that person talks. I will, when I'm in therapy and somebody is having that difficulty, a lot of times what I do is just say, take a deep breath. Let's just relax for a second and then say to them, just a moment before we were talking about the time that you went to wherever, and maybe give them a little brief help as to what they were starting to talk about before. You never want to put words into people's mouths. You want to give people time. One of the mistakes a lot of care partners make is they will, ask their loved one a question. And sometimes it could take up to 10 to 15 seconds for someone with a true deep cognitive problem to hear it, to process it, and then to formulate an answer. And unfortunately, what happens is they think the person wasn't hearing them or understanding, and they ask it again, and they ask it a different way. And now that person is being overloaded and overstimulated. So I think it's really important to take time and wait for that response.
Great. From a care partner asking, how do I make sure that my loved one's physical therapist is adapting to his needs? Is there any kind of training resource or Parkinson's specific therapy?
Oh, this person must be a plant. Thank you for asking that question. Yes, well, you are very fortunate in that the Parkinson Foundation has several offerings that physical therapists can use for more education about what's going on, something as simple as this webinar series. We also have an online course that will be coming out. We have an intensive 4-day online, now virtual program called the Parkinson Foundation Team Training. So there is ample education that's out there. So if your therapist isn't used to working with someone with Parkinson's disease, you can help to point them in the direction of where to go to find information about that. And, ask them, say, these are the things that I'm noticing. Is this something you can help me with? And, hopefully they'll be honest with you and they'll let you know what their skill set is and their comfort level. If they're not able to do that, then ask them, who could you refer me to help me with that? There's oftentimes, we don't know everything and we have to ask other members of the care team. So again, finding people. And I think, talk to people who are in your support group, talk to people on the helpline. They will have access to broader information that is out there, and we can always help to direct that therapist.
Great. A question related to life in the pandemic, both any counsel for what people are experiencing right now,
Yeah.
as well as related to somebody who may not be able to navigate telehealth.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with the first question about COVID and what's going on, there's actually a really good recent study that looked back over 5 years about how people were feeling and doing and kind of what degree of quality of life they were having, and found that people who are lonely actually fare the worst. So people who are lonely and feel isolated are having more difficulty with their Parkinson's. So that you can extrapolate that and say, well, wow, there's a lot of that going on with COVID right now. And COVID unfortunately changed our world in a very, very short period of time. And we had to kind of turn on a dime in the way we were doing things. People with Parkinson's disease don't do well with what we call cognitive flexibility, meaning being able to change situations very quickly and learning that information quickly and setting it into motion. And that's part of the disease process. So it stands to reason that that kind of additional stress on the system would make the motor symptoms worse too. So people started to feel worse. People started to feel tighter. They felt like they were having more tremor. They were having more difficulty with thinking and those kinds of things. And what we really need to do is to find ways, like I talked about, of being really creative to get people moving more and being, more able to interact socially. And because I'm talking on and on, the second part of that question, remind me, Kim, it was about COVID and then
Navigating
Oh,
telehealth.
navigating telehealth, yes. So this is not new. This was new to everybody. The therapist had to learn how to negotiate telehealth, and we are still learning how to negotiate telehealth. I think that you will find that, again, if you ask for help, and you look to community help as well, look to perhaps your place of worship, if there's someone there who could safely come to your house wearing a mask, you wearing a mask, helping you to understand things. Younger family members are great. I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I look to them all the time for the technological things. Worst case scenario, maybe your therapist needs to call you up on the phone and actually walk you through what is going on there. So don't be afraid to ask for help. People are very challenged with this. We tend to be very patient people as therapists, and we're willing to help you through this. Don't be afraid to ask.
Also related to kind of that current environment, can you speak at all to how to support a person with Parkinson's related cognitive decline when a care partner is not allowed to go into an appointment, whether that's a physician or the
Oh,
PT?
yes, that is really kind of, it's disheartening for a lot of people. If you are tech savvy, if that person has a smartphone and they're able to FaceTime so that you can be there, that is a great way, and that is perfectly acceptable. Some of the other things that we're trying to do is make more phone calls, send more emails, asking people's family members to really stay more in touch with us that way. For my folks who can't have someone come in with them, I am sending written lists of what I want them to do. So it takes a little extra time, but we do figure out what works best for people. So it might be the FaceTime, it might be a phone call, it might be an email, it might simply be putting a list together. But again, it comes down to that communication, because you can't expect that person with the Parkinson's to be able to remember all of that stuff all on their own when they normally have you there to help them with that. So we have to make adaptations to do that. And it's absolutely possible.
Great. We had somebody ask if you had any strategies for reading retention.
Mm, that's going to be a wonderful question to ask our occupational therapist. She will talk about that, I'm sure. But one of the things that we really kind of talk about here in our clinic is a good place to read, well lit. You need to be relaxed. You need to be hydrated. You need to kind of be at your best when you're going to read that. And you want to read in smaller chunks. So not thinking, hey, I'm going to get through 3 chapters right now. It may be that I get through a page. One of the things that can be helpful is when people read and then they have to share it with someone else and say, you know what, I just read in this book about, Sue was going on a trip to Maine and she forgot to bring her luggage. Saying it out loud can help to imprint it a little bit better. So reading a little bit, talking a little bit. Some people, if you're able to, jotting down little notes, that's another way that can be helpful. Now, I know a lot of folks have trouble with micrographia and with handwriting. Sometimes I have patients who like to actually tape themselves an audio on their phone and then listen back to it. And then I have some people who it's really not about the reading. They actually do better with hearing it. So listening to it on an audio. So audio books can be helpful, but definitely think about talking to the occupational therapist about that.
Excellent. A question on, are there any tests that can be done to give a sense of the extent of cognitive challenge with the physical therapist? And if so, any pros and cons to that testing?
Yes, so there are many tests. There is one test that is probably one of the most frequently used, and that's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. And that is pretty standard across the board. And pros are, it's a quick test. It breaks different areas of cognition into different parts. So it talks about memory, it talks about recall, it talks about executive function, it talks about visual spatial issues. So it does break down different areas. So you can find, okay, this is the area that seems to be more difficult for this person. The cons are, sometimes people don't want to do it, right? They see it as something really scary, or they feel like if I take this test and I don't do well, people are going to take things away from me. I'm going to lose my independence, those kinds of things. Again, it's better to have these tests done to get the answers so that we can help you. If we don't know there's a problem, then we don't know how to address that problem and help you to work with it. So absolutely, there is a full battery of tests. I would say that the majority of these tests, though, for cognition are done more so through your occupational therapist and your speech language pathologist.
Okay, great. But something they can ask their neurologist at the appointment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And just in light of our time, we will take our last question. And we had somebody ask to please again share the title and authors of the books that we mentioned today. So, Heather, I know that this one, Fitness Counts, is one
Yeah.
of them that we discussed.
Mhm.
We talked about the cognition book.
Yep.
Both of these are available through the Parkinson's Foundation. They are downloadable today. You can call our helpline and order them. And Heather, I believe you spoke about another one of
Yep.
the
So
books.
I have the Caring and Coping also available through the PF.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we certainly thank you, Heather, for sharing all your expertise today. And we thank our audience for being here, all of our attendees on Zoom. We also want to thank our program sponsor, the Light of Day Foundation, for their support. Today's session has been recorded, and we will archive this on our Parkinson's Foundation YouTube channel within the next few days, and then send a link out to all of you registered via email. So this email will also contain a survey for you to share feedback about today's program. And please know we do use your feedback to plan our future programs, so it's very important to us. Upcoming programs next week, you could join us for social engagement on Wellness Wednesday, where we will feature Sing Out Loud with Parkinson's. We spoke today about singing and how important music can be. So that's a fun way to exercise your voice, your speech, and your swallowing muscles next Wednesday. If you do have a question today that was not answered, please do reach out to our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO, or you can email them at helpline@parkinson.org. You can use that same contact info, as I said, to order our free resources, including the books and our hospital safety kit, the Aware and Care Kit. Again, we thank you for joining us today. Please stay well.